Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, as you all know, I was away last week skiing in France. I thought as I went out there actually it'd probably feel quite different. Of course, we'd heard about having to wear masks on ski lifts, even on the slopes actually at times. But when we were out there, my gosh, it felt incredibly normal. Not many masks at all. Of course, the beauty with skiing is you often wear a snood, which you can just pull up over your nose. And it certainly felt completely normal. Only a couple of times where we asked for our COVID certificates going into restaurants. And yeah, very little mask wearing at all. And of course, that all ties in with Boris's announcement this week that as from Thursday, all restrictions will lift, including that need to self-isolate once you have had a positive COVID result. So it will be really interesting to see how that translates through to the property market. One of the biggest changes the pandemic caused was that we were only allowed to do viewings with buyers who had an intent to make an offer. Now that could obviously be translated in many different ways, but what many agents did, and mainly in line with their sellers' requests actually, was only conduct viewings with proceedable buyers. And that has resulted in a bit of a broken housing market at the moment. The way that a seller becomes excited and wants to move is because they see something they like. And you have a term in a estate agency called drive the dissatisfaction, which is basically whatever your current property is not delivering for you. That might be a lack of off-road parking, might be a need for a home study, a fourth bedroom if you're having more children, nearer to good schools, or it might be the garden's getting too big for you, you need to downsize, you want to be nearer to family, whatever it might be, you focus on that reason of what their current property isn't giving for them and how the new property could. And that normally creates a motivated seller, but often they have to see some properties as well to get really excited. So generally, most people see something that meets those needs that they had, and that encourages them to put their property on the market, having faith that the whole system will just work. They will find a buyer and they will find a new property. Well, at the moment, that's certainly not happening so much. Although interestingly, Rightmove reported an 11% jump on new listings this year compared to January last year, if you compare the 2 months of January. And I think that's simply because many sellers are realising they have got to take that leap of faith to get ahead of the game. The market is highly competitive, and if you are not in a proceedable position, you will simply not secure those prize properties when they come to market. And there is probably less coming to market than there should normally be. January, of course, last year was down as well. But if you look at pre-pandemic rates, then the new listings coming to market are low. And if I could wave a magic wand and tell every seller that I see, trust me, list your property, your next one will reveal itself, I think the whole market would start to function normally again, because all those properties would come to market. I have so many sellers who say to me, we will list once we can find. And so you've got to try and unlock that desire from that seller. So what is this all doing to prices? Well, Rightmove came out this week and evidently saw the biggest jump ever in January for prices that properties are being placed to market at. An 11% increase, all the 11s this week, in the price that properties are going to market at, they're being listed at. I see that all the time at the moment. I speak to sellers, I give my thoughts on a valuation, they come back and say, well, could we try this? And quite often we get it. 37% of properties in January went to sealed bids. So a competitive bidding situation, that compares to 25% in December. So price is certainly holding, not being affected by inflation, rising interest rates, terrible weather, which is the second biggest contributor to the UK property market. Did you know that? So yeah, the property market continuing to hold, those prices holding, and that's probably because of that distinct lack of stock that we are seeing, and many buyers just wanting to pay to get something to allow them to move on. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens to prices going forward, and indeed with those easing of restrictions, whether we will get back to a more functioning market, because people will be able to do viewings in theory before they can proceed. The good old days of what we used to have, which makes a happy market. So really interesting facts there. SDL, they are a property auction site. We are partnered with them. Some people like to sell in an auction environment, and they are having their biggest auction ever this Thursday of bungalows. Now, of course, the reason I mention that is bungalows are in short supply in the country compared to traditional houses, but in great need actually. Some people want them for retirement, much easier to live in, but equally many people like me want them because they often occupy big plots and they have big footprints, so they are great for redevelopment. I know I've been a bit quiet on my build, and that's because I'm just waiting for a few key things to fall into place. I don't want to tempt fate by talking about it too much, because boy is it complicated to get all the stars to align in terms of builders and money and moving out and rentals. So a couple of things just going on, and then I'm sincerely hoping that from next week or the week after, I will start to be able to give you really regular updates on my build. Lots of people requesting that. I'll do it via Instagram, probably on my stories, and then save those stories in my highlights. So I will tell you more about that. But fingers crossed, I might be moving out a week Thursday into our new rental property, and it'll be all systems go from there. So I can't wait to tell you more about that. We've got some lovely properties coming to market. If you are thinking you would like to get your next move sorted, one on Hopwood Gardens is really great. It's got such potential. So talking about development, carrying on that theme, it's got planning permission granted to do a really good extension to the rear and the side. It's got a good generous plot, off-road parking in that St John's area. So that's a really great one. Do give us a call if that's of interest, and we'd be delighted to help. I hope you have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.